Good morning, interwebs. It is 8:17 in the evening, and I am about to film the podcast, which I have been putting off and just not prioritizing for many days, but today is the day. And I will tell you more about my day so far later, but I just wanted to show you something before I went to film. I wanted to show you this lovely heap. It had all been part of the shawl that I'd showed you before. I had the edging on, and then I went to, I hadn't really looked at it, laid out since I'd put the edging on, and it was real wavy, and I wasn't happy with it. Plus, this yarn, I told you it had been yarn ferried. I think there's an issue with the yarn. It is Cascade, and it has a lot of broken plies in it, which I found when I was going through, and some of them I was just working through, and it wasn't going to be a huge deal to me. But then, with the amount that seemed to be in there, I wondered if they were either somebody's leftovers from making a sweater or something, or if they were yarn that had issues, and that's why it had all gotten balled up the way it was, because it was in a bunch of pieces. So I'm guessing it was at least leftovers, if not problematic yarn. And I am not real happy with the number of broken plies, and as I was frogging it out of the shawl, some more broke. So this is going to go into the jar of yarn ends for the month, and I guess it'll get me a good start. But it'll go in there so that it can not cause issues in anything I use it in. Okay, off to go film a podcast. So it is 1:09, and podcast is all edited, and it's uploading and doing its thing right now. The vlog is edited, it needs to wait for this to upload so it can upload. And then I was trying to decide what I'm going to do tonight. I just finished working on this C.R. Gibson, which is a journal company I like. They had a big sale a few weeks ago, so I ordered a bunch of things because these journals that were usually almost $20 were on sale for $4. So yeah, I got a stack of them to last me for the year for different things. But this one, as you can see, wrote 2018 on the cover, and I'm going to make a whole bunch of different lists of things that I've done. So filling those out, I did color the title page tonight because, why not? And I was thinking about it, and that perhaps that seems counter to the whole idea of no resolutions, but I don't see them as resolutions. I have found that my life is becoming more and more surrounded with analytics between the Etsy stuff and the YouTube stuff. There's just a lot of data on those portions of my life. I can see in a tangible number way what it is that I'm accomplishing, I guess. And that's not always as easy in some other areas of my life if you don't keep the data. It's not that those things don't exist, it's that I forget I did them. So I've thought about this, and this is one of those things that I do think falls in anytime you can start, it's good. But if you can start it at a round point, the beginning of a month, or in this case, the beginning of a year, that is ideal, because then you can, aggregate the data better. Plus, I think that we're going to, we always kind of reboot homeschool in the beginning of January, because actually when we started homeschooling, it was in January. We used to run our school years January to January for the first 2 or 3 years, but then when my daughter got old enough, it was better to have it offset. It made it easier for doing things like sports and dance and things. So we caved and switched our timing of when we say we changed years. I don't know. Anyways, it's kind of irrelevant, but it has just made a difference in our bookkeeping and our mental bookkeeping. But in restarting things in January, I also think there's a bunch of things where we're going to try and do 18 of things. One of our goals is to read 18 read-aloud books this year, chapter books that I read to the kids and stuff. And part of that is that 12, so one a month, isn't enough. We can get through more than one a month, and then there's a lag, and when there's this gap, we are most likely to fall out of that routine or, find other ways to spend our time. But 18 is just a little more than one a month, which I think will be a good pace for some different things. So I made myself a book so that I can keep my own stats on myself, because I figured out, like over Christmas that my hoopla, which by the way, we did not keep up after a certain point because we got a lot of things on it and the kids were not comfortable like stacking the things. They didn't like that. So once it got too full and they didn't like putting the pieces on anymore, we just stopped. But it was a good visual reminder to me that we had done a lot of stuff. So even on the days where I felt like we weren't doing everything I wanted to do holiday related or getting to, you know, tick all the boxes on a given day, we had done plenty. It was enough. So hopefully keeping some lists like that will help me with that a bit this year. So I am going to go and get some tea, and I'm going to go get, I bought a new box of super tip markers, like, excuse me, Jezebel, some of these, the Crayola ones, which, by the way, I love for coloring, because they have, like, super juicy tips, like, they're nice and moist, and they have a long amount of life, too, so that is one thing. But I have a new box, and I've had it for a while, and I have been looking at something the other day about how to label them, and I want to do that, because I think it will be awesome, and then they are going to live in this bag, which is the small bag from my birthday bundle, and I think they will just be perfect, and then they'll be all ready for my trip, and they'll be all labeled, and I'll still continue to use my old ones too, but then I'll have two sets, like one that's nice and a full set, and then the other one, as they're drying out, I'm throwing them away. So eventually I'm going to have like a bunch of one color and none of another or something, but yeah, I'm going to label markers tonight. That was when I wrote out my to-do list this morning. That was one of the things on it. So podcast is done, made my lists, gonna do that. I might get to some sewing tonight. It would probably be ideal if I did, but if I don't, I'm not gonna feel bad about it. I'm gonna have some tea, and then I will talk to you some about sleep later, because I was asked a question. Okay, y'all, real talk about how pathetic I am, and how amusing. So, it is like 5-ish in the morning. I'm headed to bed. I was just going to speak to you briefly, show you what I did tonight, and then be on my merry way, right? I could not, for the life of me, find you, this particular vlogging camera. So I get out my silver one, which happens to apparently need its battery charged, because I talked to you for like a millisecond on here and the battery died. So I need to remember to do that tonight before I go to bed, because I need a backup, right? Redundancy is a good thing. So I'm looking all over for you. I was like, whatever, I guess I'll have to do a Kendra from the future tomorrow. Not ideal, but it's gonna work. And I was gonna text Steve and say, hey, if you see my camera, let me know. And I'm looking around, and I pick up my phone, and I go to put my phone in the pocket of my shirt. You'd been in my pocket for the last, like, 4 hours. I had you on me the whole time. Anyways, pathetic. And she had asked whether I intentionally did polyphasic sleeping or if it's just what happens. And thank you. I did not know that that was a term, and I had to, as we say around here, go, Mr. Google Pants, and find out. And according to Google, I now know what polyphasic sleep is. There are a couple of different, like, I guess ways of looking at it, but there is an intentional form of polyphasic sleep, which means that you intentionally sleep in multiple segments. There's a number of different names and ways to go about it. There's like triphasic sleep and biphasic sleep, and then there's this weird thing called the Uberman, which is where you like take like 10, maybe 15-minute naps like around the clock. That way you never have to actually like sleep. And there are certain disorders people have where that is okay, but for like everybody, that's not. But the form of sleep which I basically seem to do, it sounds from like looking at different sources, I looked at like 3 or 4 different websites, that it's not a bad thing, which is definitely what I have figured out. No, I do not sleep on the schedule I do on purpose per se. Like, it wasn't like I taught myself how to sleep this way. I have always been a napper, And I've had some people who did not like that I nap, but it's a thing about me. As a kid, I never had a bedtime. I always was able to stay up as late as I wanted, in part because of the hours that my dad worked. If I wanted to see him when I was really little, I had to stay up later. If I had gone to bed at like 8 o'clock, I never would have spent time with him at all, except on the weekends, maybe. So I would stay up till like 11-ish. Most of the time. That was always like, it wasn't an official bedtime, but that's just when I went to bed, because that's when my parents went to bed. And yeah, you get a lot of weird looks from your kindergarten teacher and your friends when you're talking about what happened on the Tonight Show. And nobody else in my class was sad when Johnny Carson retired, but I was really sad. Anyways, so I always would stay up really late, but also when I got home from school, I would always take a nap. Not that I was ever told to. Napping was also never something my parents kind of like I didn't have a bedtime. I didn't have a mandatory nap. I just naturally get sleepy at some point, and when that happens, I happily trot myself to a bed or a chair or the floor, and I sleep for a period of time. So, yeah, I've always been a napper, and now, basically what has worked out in our life is that I sleep for a period of time at night, and then if I get tired sometime in the afternoon, it usually coincides with either the kids' rest time, like it did today. I was trying to put them down for rest time. They were fighting it, which was fighting it because they needed it. So I was sitting there watching them, and in the process, I fell asleep. They go to sleep. It's a thing that happens. And sometimes in the evening, I will also fall asleep for like 15, maybe 20 minutes while we're watching a show or listening to a story or something. So that is there's a bit of sleep on that part of the day, and then I do stay up really late. Like right now, it's like 5:30 in the morning, and I'm about to go to bed. And I would stay up later because I have one more medium bag that I would really like to sew, but I know that would just wreck this happy balance I have found in the last week. Steve and I had just recently been talking about how happy my current sleep cycle is making me. I feel better physically, mentally, and emotionally when I stay up really late at night, in part because I'm able to be more productive. I feel more rested because I get better sleep. I sleep very, very poorly between the hours of like 10 or 11 and probably about 3 o'clock in the morning. And it is confirmed by, I got a Fitbit so I could follow my sleep patterns, that I do not sleep well during those periods of time. But if I wait, I go to sleep somewhere between 3 and whenever, I get much better sleep. And I get better sleep late in the morning, like we're talking somewhere between 9 and 11, than I do between like 6 and 8. So if I were to live on a normal person's schedule, I do not sleep well at all, and it very quickly compounds to make me a miserable human being. So this is working, and with Steve working nights, there's already some weirdness with like when it was convenient for me to go to bed. No matter what time the kids go to bed, I would feel like I was disrupting Steve if I went to bed before he left for work. But if I stayed up that late, then I just want to stay up a little bit later, and it's a thing. But that is all I have to say about it. It is not intentional per se, but I'm embracing it, and it does help that Steve is on board with my sleep schedule. He, in fact, pushed me in this direction because I felt a great deal of guilt, my prevailing emotion, about the schedule that I live on. But I am learning to accept it, and feeling good makes accepting things a whole lot easier. So yeah, I'm gonna stick with it as much as I can, I think, for the time being. We'll see. I'm gonna go to California, and I'm gonna do the time zone shift, and it's just all gonna get all messed up here in about a month. But hopefully by February, I'll be a human again. I don't know. But it is also convenient, though, for like work stuff that I can get up mid-morning. Steve and the kids have done their outside-y things, whatever school things he has with them. And then I can do school and stuff with them. We can have lunch. Then they usually take rest time. And then we can also potentially do school in the evening, which is actually when we do the majority of it. And then I can still do my crafty, vloggy, craft video shenanigans when everyone else is asleep, which means I get a quiet house. It does mean I get poor lighting, but that is why we have changed all the light bulbs in all the public spaces where I vlog to daylight bulbs, because then I get better picture. And then I just plugged in a bunch of Christmas lights and I keep filming in the practically dark. Anyways, it is what it is. But I'm going to go to sleep, even though, as you can tell, I have a great deal of energy right now. Oh, energy. Let me think of it. So I was drinking tea earlier, not to get energy, but just because, you know, tea. But I was watching a vlog, and the guy was, like, making a cup of coffee with, you know, great care. He was putting, like, milk and special sugar syrup, and it was special cold brew coffee, and it was, like, this whole rigmarole. And it looked delicious. And then I pick up my cup of tea and I drink it, and my brain was so angry and so confused because I just watched this very sweet coffee drink be made. And then I picked up my tea, which didn't even have sugar in it, and my brain didn't know what to do. It was like, what is this? This is not what you are putting in your mouth. I was like, no, this is my tea. I was like, oh, that's right, that is your tea. My brain was very confused for a moment, but we came back together. And now we're going to go to bed. And I will see you all tomorrow. Nighty night.